In the book Environment and Society, A Critical Introduction, Robbins, Hinz, and Moore write that at about 8 months old, a sow is artificially impregnated for the first time. Immediately after being impregnated, the sow is moved to a gestation crate. The crate is usually about 2 by 7 feet and not even large enough for the sow to turn around, nor can she stand up or lie down without rubbing up against the metal bars that form the walls. This is an example of one of the many horrors faced by animals in confined animal feeding operations, otherwise known as CAFOS. Almost all of the meat we consume is raised on factory farms, and in this speech, I will inform you about what goes on in these farms and the adverse effects that come from it. I'm an environmental science major here at Eastern, and I've been enlightened to the reality of CAFOS through numerous courses within the environmental science program. After this speech, you will be well informed about where your meat is coming from and be able to make educated decisions as consumers of animal products. First, I will discuss the conditions faced by animals on factory farms. Then, I will discuss why we have CAFOs as our means of producing meat. And finally, I will talk about the impacts on the environment as a result of such operations. CAFOs place animals into dangerously close quarters where they do not see sunlight, can barely move, and are fed unnatural substances. The situation with the sow is similar with all factory farmed animals. Beef cattle, for example, are also not able to turn around in their crates because when they don't use their muscles, it makes the meat more tender, according to Jim Mason and Mary Finelli in the chapter Brave New Farm from Peter Singer's book In the Defense of Animals, The Second Wave. They also feed cows corn instead of grass, which is completely unnatural in a cow's diet. Chickens raised for consumption are extremely tightly packed in barns. They are fed artificial growth hormones, which speed up the development of their breasts, as this is the most desired part of the chicken. Their legs can't support the premature extra weight, so many of these chickens are unable to stand up or walk around. Egg-laying chickens are in cages roughly equivalent to the size of their bodies and stand on wire caging, which their feet are not adapted for. Since chickens under stress tend to peck at each other's, farmers cut off the tips of chicks' beaks in a practice called debeaking. Those are just a few examples of what animals in CAFOs experience, and by now you must be thinking that there must be a more ethical way to produce meat. So why do we have CAFOs in the first place? Well, fruit production is an economy, and the goal of any economy is to obtain maximum profits at the lowest possible cost. By keeping animals confined in cages, which are as densely packed as possible, companies can reduce the cost of production and have a higher output. The higher output is tied directly to us as consumers. The global demand for meat is so high that CAFOs are currently the only means of producing enough meat to satisfy consumer demands. While CAFOs may be economically efficient, there is a significant cost to the environment. One of these costs is increased emissions, which contribute to global warming. Carbon dioxide is released as a result of feed production, transportation, and heating, ventilation, and cooling systems. Nitrous oxide, another greenhouse gas, is released from manure. R.C. Aaliyah notes in her article, Intensive Livestock Farming, Global Trends, Increased Environmental Concerns, and Ethical Solutions, that livestock are also responsible for almost 64% of anthropogenic ammonia emissions, which contribute significantly to acid rain and the acidification of ecosystems. Manure also contributes to climate change, but more concerningly, it is a dangerous pollutant to ecosystems. Animal manure is not treated as human waste is, and ends up being carried by runoff into our lakes, rivers, and groundwater, which toxifies the little fresh water that we have on this planet. As you can see, there is a dark side to meat production that is hidden to much of the public. Animals are treated like objects instead of living beings. CAFOs are the only way to produce enough meat to satisfy our world's current demands, and there are significant costs to the environment as a result. Factory farms are arguably the most unsustainable, immoral economies out there. And like any successful economy, it relies entirely on you, the consumer.